Great Adventure, Part 2, A Special Encounter. Just as Tom-Tom was happily munching away, bam! The vegetable crate shook violently. The whole basket of lettuce was suddenly lifted into the air. What was happening? Oh no, a different delivery truck had started moving, and it was carrying the crate Tom-Tom was in. Horrified, Tom-Tom crawled quickly toward the edge of the basket, but it was too late. Outside, the world blurred past in a rush. The lettuce trucker was already leaving the rest stop. Peeking through the gaps in the basket, Tom-Tom saw his friendly driver, still standing far behind. Completely unaware that his little snail passenger was missing, Tom-Tom called out in his tiniest voice, "Wait, I'm here, help!" But of course, his tiny snail voice was, too soft. No one heard him. Terrified, Tom-Tom shrank back inside the basket, tears welling up in his eyes. "Oh no, I'm lost, and all because I got distracted by food." He remembered his mother's warning and felt guilty, but now wasn't the time to cry. He had to think. Taking a deep breath, he tried to stay calm. Maybe this truck is going toward the countryside too. At least I'm not in the city anymore. The truck rattled and bumped along for what felt like forever. Finally, it slowed down and came to a stop. The driver climbed out and began unloading, say, the baskets of vegetables. Tom-Tom's crate was lifted and, thud, dropped onto the ground. Bright sunlight flooded in, making Tom-Tom squint. But this was his chance. The moment the driver walked away, Tom-Tom crawled as fast as he could, slipping out of the crate and tumbling onto the dirt road. The cool countryside earth felt nice under his little snail foot. Taking a deep breath, Tom-Tom looked around. He saw a narrow dirt path, green rice fields stretching on both sides, and a tiny marketplace in the distance. The vegetable truck driver was nowhere in sight. He must have gone somewhere else. Tom-Tom realized he had to find his own way home. He told himself, "Don't panic. I just need to find someone nice to help me. Grandma and Grandpa's house should be nearby." And so, the little snail bravely set off on his adventure, crawling slowly down the unfamiliar countryside path. His heart raced with excitement and nervousness. What surprises were waiting for him ahead? Tom-Tom had only been crawling for a short while when he suddenly heard a rapid tapping behind him. Tap, tap, tap. Turning around, he saw a tiny black ant dashing toward him. The little ant was wearing a dry leaf as a hat and carrying a mini grass backpack. He looked like he was in a hurry. The ant stopped in surprise. "Hey, little snail, what are you doing here all alone?" Tom-Tom politely introduced himself. "Hi, I'm Tom-Tom the snail. I got lost and I'm trying to find my way to Rose Village, where my grandparents live." The ant's eyes lit up. "Oh, Rose Village. I know that place. It's not too far from here." Then the ant introduced himself. "My name's Speedy Ant. This morning I was supposed to help my ant colony harvest rice, but I got distracted by sweets and wandered off to the village market instead." Speedy Ant pointed toward the tiny marketplace in the distance and sighed. "Now my soldier ant brothers are probably looking for me. I better hurry back before they scold me." Then he grinned. "Hey, since I'm heading that way anyway, why don't I help you get to Rose Village?" Tom-Tom's eyes sparkled with relief. "Really? That would be amazing. Thank you, Speedy Ant. I was afraid I'd get even more lost." But then Tom-Tom hesitated. "There's just one problem. I'm really slow. I don't think I can keep up with you." Speedy Ant studied Tom-Tom's big, heavy shell and nodded thoughtfully. Don't worry, I have an idea." He dashed into a nearby bush and returned with a big, dry banyan leaf. He dragged it over and placed it in front of Tom-Tom. "Here, hop onto this." Tom-Tom obeyed and settled comfortably on the leaf. Then Speedy Ant grabbed the stem and started pulling. The leaf glided smoothly over the dirt path thanks to Tom Tom's slimy snail trail. And just like that, Speedy Ant became the Soul Train engine and Tom Tom became the passenger car as they zoomed through the countryside. "Woohoo, this is so fast, I've never travelled like this before," Tom Tom cheered. Speedy Ant grinned. "Ha-ha, we ants are strong, pulling you is super easy." The two new friends chatted and laughed as they travelled. Tom Tom told Speedy Ant all about the Marade big city, how tall the buildings were, how noisy the cars were, and how everything moved in so fast. In return, Speedy Ant excitedly talked about his hard-working ant colony and how he loved sweet smiles more than anything. They laughed and talked, making the journey feel much shorter. At one point, they passed through a field of tall rice plants. The leaves brushed against Tom Tom's shell, making a sh-sh sound. Suddenly, a grasshopper jumped out from the bushes. Eek! Tom Tom nearly fell off the leaf. Speedy Ant burst into laughter. "Ha ha ha! You're scared of a little grasshopper." Tom Tom chuckled nervously. "I guess I'm just not used to all this countryside wildlife." A little while later, the sun rose higher and the heat grew stronger. Speedy Ant finally stopped under the shade of a foyer, wild shrub. "Phew, let's take a break. Pulling you is harder than I thought." Tom Tom quickly slid off the leaf, feeling guilty. "I'm sorry, Speedy Ant. I must be so heavy." Speedy Ant, panting, waved a tiny hand. "Nah, don't worry about it. I just need a rest." The two friends pulled out their eat snacks one to share. Tom Tom offered Speedy Ant some fresh lettuce cores from his travel pack. Speedy Ant wrinkled his nose. I'm not really into veggies." Instead, he pulled out a tiny sugar crystals from his backpack. "Here, I found this at the village tea shop. It's super sweet. Try it." Tom Tom had never eaten candy before. He took a small bite. "Oh wow, it's so sweet." His face scrunched up. His little tongue stuck out. It was too sugary. Meanwhile, Speedy Ant rolled on the ground, laughing, and at Tom Tom's reaction, Tom Tom couldn't help but giggle too. In the end, Speedy Ant happily finished the candy and Tom Tom enjoyed his lettuce. Both were full and happy, and as they continued their journey. Little did they know the Smeye, biggest adventure as DA, was still waiting ahead. Would Tom Tom finally make it home safely? To be continued. If you enjoyed the story, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any of Snail's adventures. And now, goodbye and see you next time.